All right, so if you trade Bitcoin, then this particular analysis is for you. Let me clear everything. Let me start from scratch. You can see I've got certain levels marked. Let me tell you the exact levels I have marked. Okay, so this particular red vertical line here is the month of July. This is when July started. So this this particular move you are seeing now, to the upside is what has happened on Bitcoin so far in the month of July. I like to divide my charts into, the exact times when the month started and the week started and all of that, so I can see clearly what is happening in that particular period. Okay. So also, if you can see here, you can see I have a purple, you know, horizontal line here and a purple horizontal line up there. That is the previous month's high and low. So this is the high and this is the previous month's low. Okay, why do I have that at the start of every new month? I want to see the range in which the current month is trading in. It helps me understand. It helps me understand, what to expect because these levels, these highs and the previous month's highs and lows, mostly they have what traders call liquidity. Okay, it mostly have liquidity sitting at these levels. So when the market taps into any of these levels within that particular month, that is when I start looking for opportunities to trade. Great. So, looking at Bitcoin in the month of July, what can we see? What can we see? Or what can we say? So, in the month of July, we can clearly see that Bitcoin started by, tapping into, you can see this particular candle here, went straight and tapped into last month's liquidity price. That's the last month's low. And then Bitcoin started shooting higher for the month of July. So far for the month of July, Bitcoin has been pushing higher, prices has been going higher. But I think we are coming to the end of that particular move. And so that is the one reason why I wanted to record this particular um record this particular video for you guys. All right. So currently BTC has traded right up into the weekly resistance. Now, one thing I want you to understand is weekly levels are so important. So one thing you always need to understand as a trader is what is the weekly time frame saying? If the weekly time frame is going down, best believe I am looking at selling a particular market. If the weekly time frame is going up, I am looking at buying that particular market, especially when it lines up with the macro or the fundamental thesis of the US dollar. I trade only US dollar influence markets. So every time I try to understand what is happening in the US from a macro and fundamental perspective before I even come to the technical. And what helps me do that is the SOG Capital macro tracker, which is a tracker that I have built for myself that I use in trading. It helps me track what is happening in the US. It gives me a DXY bias score, and I use that to frame, or that at the back of my mind helps me understand what to do on the markets I want to trade that are affected by the US dollar. Great. So you can visit www.sogcap.com, sogcap.com. Yep, to have access to the SOG Capital macro tracker. Great. So now let's move back to the technical bit. All right. So Bitcoin at the moment, in the month of July, what happened? We tapped into liquidity, the previous month's low, which is June's low, and we started pushing higher. And we've pushed high for 3 consecutive weeks. One, two, three. But what do you notice? You can notice that, as the market is nearing, as price is nearing, the resistance area, which is this particular area, you can notice one thing that Bitcoin, the price in the candles start, becoming smaller. This whole area is a resistance area on the weekly. This whole space here is a resistance area on the weekly, and it's also an area where there was a fair value gap that was created with this particular push to the downside. It's a fair value gap that was created here The market has already tapped into it once and then it pushed back and then we seem to have come right back into it again. And what do you notice? You notice that as the market was pushing higher, as prices were pushing higher, look at these candles. They started getting like dojis. They started forming like dojis. When the market was pushing into the fair value gap area, which is acting as a current resistance area for Bitcoin. So what does that tell me? It tells me that the momentum that the market picked at the beginning of July when it tapped into last month's low is kind of fading. You can see the candles are telling you it's kind of fading. So there's a big possibility that we could see Bitcoin roll over back to the downside and even head for $50,000. That is my next official target for Bitcoin, $50,000 if every other thing stays the same. So with this idea, I can now drop down to what's that? I can now drop down to back to the 4 hour time frame. Let me go back to the 4 hour time frame, which will tell me what is happening in the current week. Like I told you, a new week just opened on BTC. We just had a new week open. Yep. Let me mark that particular price, that particular area. New week just opened. Mm. So this is the 4 hour time frame. The 4 hour time frame helps me understand what is happening on a week to week basis on every market that I look at. So with this particular week that has opened, there's a fair value gap. I'm looking for my where are these things? Okay, yes, I found it. There. There is oh, I thought that was it. I'm looking for the ships. They didn't make it. Object list to do. Let me just use this. Just use this. Let me delete this. Now you've seen the demarcation. So there's a fair value gap that was formed just before the new week opened. You can see a fair value gap here. That current low. I didn't do the top one. That currently Bitcoin is tapping into. Okay. Bitcoin is currently tapping into that fair value gap. So two things could happen. It's either Bitcoin taps into this fair value gap, breaks the current changes structure, or it taps into this fair value gap and we start seeing Bitcoin headed higher. If that happens, if we start seeing Bitcoin head higher, like as in it respects, if Bitcoin respects this particular fair value gap on the 4 hour and starts heading higher, then BTC would be trying to break out of the range. And if that happens, this particular week, then I'll be expecting Bitcoin to head for last month's high. I'll be expecting Bitcoin to head for last month's high. That is if we break and the momentum is sustained, the bullish momentum is sustained, then I'll be expecting Bitcoin to head for last month's high. But if not, and this particular fair value gap does not hold, then if this particular area does not hold, then I'll be expecting Bitcoin to roll over and start heading right for the lows one more time. Yep, start heading right for the lows one more time. So currently, that is what I'm looking at on BTC. I'm waiting to see a new week just started, so I want to see price develop more. But my overall bias on Bitcoin is to sell BTC. Is to look for sell opportunities on Bitcoin, to short Bitcoin, to sell Bitcoin this particular week. But if the market decides to show me otherwise, I will change my perspective because we are coming from tapping into previous month's low and we are still elevated to the upside. So anything can happen. But my overall bias on Bitcoin is I'm looking for sales. If at any point in time within the week, I see that there's going to be an opportunity for Bitcoin to break out of this particular current range and head for the last month's high, I would record a new video and let you guys know. But until then, stay safe. Peace out.